What's up, everyone? It's Bones here. Do you remember Trap Monsters? You probably should. Eldish is only 3 years old and a face of Master Duels, but we aren't talking about those kinds of trap monsters. In today's video, we have Centur-Ion. Monsters that can become traps but aren't trap monsters. But before I start, if you're a fan of in-depth combo videos, new set coverage, and occasional fun stuff that we like to do on the channel, then gently place your emblem of oath on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons. Now for this first combo, and I know that you see a super heavy samurai card here, Waka Flocka is actually a pretty important card to the strategy in my opinion because of little things that it can do like this, and this is going to be only a 1-card combo that can get much crazier if you do have an extra card to send from your hand to the graveyard, but we're going to get our booster off of the Waka Flocka, or the big Benkai that we get off of the Waka Flocka, and then we'll use the effect of the booster in order to special summon itself out after we activate it from the hand to equip it to the Waka Flocka, and then we'll go into our Infernal Flame Banshee, which allows us to add a Pyro monster from our deck to our hand as long as we detach a material from it. And we'll get ourselves our first new Centur-Ion monster, and this one is called Trudea. It's a level 4 Dark Pyro monster. It reads, during your main phase, you can place both this card you control and one Centur-Ion monster from your hand or deck, except Trudea, face up in your spell and trap zone as continuous traps. Also, you cannot special summon Centur-Ion Trudea for the rest of the turn. During the main phase, while this card is treated as a continuous trap, you can special summon this card. Then, you can increase its level by 4. You can only use each effect of Trudea once per turn, and the really cool thing about it being a continuous trap while in the spell and trap zone is the fact that it becomes a quick effect in order to activate that effect, and then we're going to normal summon it here, put it in the spell and trap zone as a continuous trap, as we're going to bring out Primera with the effect of Trudea, and this one reads, while this card is treated as a continuous trap, level 5 or higher Centur-Ion monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can only use each of the following effects of Primera once per turn. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Centur-Ion card from your deck to your hand, except Primera. Also, you cannot special summon Primera for the rest of this turn. During the main phase, while this card is treated as a continuous trap, you can special summon this card. So this is just really nice because you're able to special summon it from the spell and trap zone as we are going to now, and then it allows us to get a search. So because we don't have the send from our hand to the graveyard in this particular combo, we're going to get ourselves the first of 2 new traps, Truth Centur-Ion, and it's a counter trap. When a spell trap card or monster effect is activated, send one face-up monster card from your spell trap zone to the graveyard as a cost, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. You can only activate one Truth Centur-Ion per turn. Now, what this allows us to do is get into 2 disruptions just off of the super heavy Samurai Waka, and we're going to go into the SP Little Knight since we have nothing else we can do, but in the next combo, I'm going to show what happens when you have a discard. So for this next combo, you can either have the Waka Flocka or the Trudea. As you see, the Waka Flocka is just there to add yourself the Trudea, and the Trudea is really what sets your engine going, as really pretty much most of the Centur-Ion cards do, if not all, except one of them. But we're going to be able to use the effect of Trudea, and then we'll be able to put the Primera in the spell and trap zone off of its effect as we did previously, as we're going to special summon it with its effect, and then we're going to get ourselves the next new card, Stand Up Centur-Ion. It's a field spell, and it reads, cannot be destroyed by your opponent's effects while you control a Centur-Ion monster card. You can only use each of the following effects of Stand Up Centur-Ion once per turn. During your main phase, if this card was activated this turn, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, place one Centur-Ion monster from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous trap. If a monster is special summoned, you can immediately after this effect resolves synchro summon one synchro monster using monsters you control as material, including a Centur-Ion monster. And this is a really good field spell all around because not only does it grant you easy protection as long as you have a Centur-Ion monster, but the synchro effect is something that you can end up using on your opponent's turn, which allows you to do quick synchro disruption plays that opens up a toolbox of synchro monsters that you can use. So we're going to now activate our field spell, and then we're going to activate the main use of it, which is sending our extra card from our hand to the graveyard so that we can place the level 8 Centur-Ion Emmet. And this one reads, during your opponent's turn, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, quick effect, you can target one Centur-Ion monster you control except Emmet, place it face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous trap. and if you do, special summon this card. Also, you cannot special summon Emmet for the rest of this turn. During the main phase, while this card is treated as a continuous trap, you can special summon this card. You can only use each effect of Emmet once per turn. Now, we're going to use the effect of Emmet as we're going to special summon it out to the monster zone so that we can then use the effect of the field spell. You don't have to, but we'll then be able to go into our next new Centur-Ion card, level 12, and it takes 1 tuner plus 1 non-tuner monsters. Your monsters with 2000 or less attack cannot be destroyed by battle. You can only use each of the following effects of the new synchro once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can draw 1 card. Then you can destroy the monster your opponent controls with the highest attack. Your choice if tied. That is optional, so you'll get the draw regardless, but during the end phase, you can place 1 non-synchro Centur-Ion monster from your hand or graveyard face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous trap. And this is kind of a choke point that the deck does have, because say that your opponent ends on this and you're the one playing against Centur-Ion. If you imperm the synchro at the point of the draw, then they won't get the draw, but they'll also be stopped from getting the Centur-Ion Primera that they would get back in the end phase, as we are going to do. But first we're going to get that draw, and if you don't get impermed here, you're able to get the Primera. We'll then be able to go on to our opponent's turn, and I'm just going to set a card so that we can play, so that I can show what the deck does. So don't take anything that my opponent has in hand as if they were going to actually do anything with it. So we're then going to use the effects of our Centur-Ion monsters, as they are continuous traps and they're quick effects now. So we'll be able to special summon out the Trudea, which we do increase its level to 8. This is something that you don't have to do. But then we'll also be able to use the effect of the Primera, which will give us a search, and then we'll be able to use the effect of the field spell for the synchro summon, as we're then going to use the effect of Emmet, and then we're going to be able to place the Trudea onto the spell and trap zone as a continuous trap, special summon out the Emmet, which is still a level 8, so that we can go into our Crimson Dragon. And as you see, this is what this enables. It's basically Hot Red King Calamities, and you'll notice that a lot of the combos are going to stick to the same script, as it's what the main goal of the deck is, and it is a bit degenerate, but it's something that you're going to have to prepare for with this deck coming out in just a little under a couple of weeks. But our next new card is Faith of Centur-Ion. It's a quick play, and it reads: place 1 Centur-Ion monster from your hand or graveyard face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous trap. If a Centur-Ion Synchro Monsters is special summoned to your field while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, then target 1 Centur-Ion monster in your graveyard as a cost, place it face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous trap. You can only use each effect of Faith of the Centur-Ion once per turn, and this ends up being a type of follow-up where you can just put the Primera back onto your spell and trap zone from the graveyard, use its effect on your turn, and then get itself on board, get the search, and then keep on going from there. But now we're going to use the Crimson Dragon targeting the level 12 Centur-Ion Synchro to bring out our Hot Red King Calamity, use its effect, and then we'll be able to pass our turn on that. So for this next combo, we have the Primera along with any other card in hand, and we're going to use the effect of the Primera, as we'll then be able to add ourselves the stand-up. We'll activate the stand-up, as we're then going to use its effect, pitching the thrust. We'll get ourselves the Trudea onto the spell and trap zone, as we'll then use its effect in order to special summon it so that we can then use its on-field effect so that we can put it back in the spell and trap zone, getting ourselves the Emmet. Emmet can then bring itself on board, as we then have the level 12 access. We're going to use the effect of the field spell, and then we can go into our level 12 Centur-Ion, as we'll then get the draw, and then during the end phase, we can get ourselves the Primera so that we can do the same Hot Red King Calamity play on our opponent's turn, where we use the Trudea along with the Primera to special summon themselves. Emmet comes back as we place the Trudea in the spell and trap zone. We then quick synchro with the field spell that activates on the same chain link as the Primera, that you get the search upon its special summon, and then you can go into the Crimson Dragon, into the Hot Red King Calamity, same thing as last time. Now for this next one, we have just stand up Centur-Ion along with any other card, so we're just going to use the other card to send it off of the stand up, and then we'll be able to get ourselves the Primera, as we'll then use the effect of Primera, and you'll see where this is going, as we're going to be able to add ourselves the Trudea. Trudea can then get itself on board, as we're then going to use its effect to get the Emmet, and now we have the level 12 access, and this gives us the same exact setup, as we're going to quick synchro into the level 12 Centur-Ion. The level 12 Centur-Ion will net us a draw during the end phase. We can put the Primera in our spell and trap zone, and then on our opponent's turn, we can just pop off. So now for the next combo, we have another new new card, and this is Emblem of Oath. It reads, activate one of these effects, place one Centur-Ion monster from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous trap. And if you do, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Centur-Ion monsters. While you control a face-up card with the same original name as the place card, set one Centur-Ion spell trap directly from your deck. You can only activate one Emblem of Oath per turn, and this is a really good card, and this is going to be a pretty repetitive continuation to what you've seen, but we're going to use its effect, as we're then going to get ourselves a Primera. We can then use the effect of Primera. We'll then be able to get the effect of Primera to search, as we'll get ourselves the stand-up Centur-Ion. We have the extra card, so we can send it off to the graveyard, off of the stand-up Centur-Ion, get ourselves the Trudea, use the effect of the Trudea, as we'll then be able to get itself on board, then use its effect as we'll place it on the field, then go into our Centur-Ion Emmet. And I would like to keep in mind something I haven't mentioned. If you get impermed on the Trudea or whatever, you can just go into number 41. If you're playing against Tier or something like that, you can go into Abyss Dweller, but there are other options that you have if you do get stopped during the main combo. And we're going to use the Emmet now, as we're then going to get it on board, use the effect of the field spell to quick synchro into our Centur-Ion level 12, use its effect for the draw, go to the end phase, and now we have the same setup that I've been showing over and over and over. Now for this next combo, we finally have a bit of a different one with the Waka Flocka along with the Emblem of Oath. And we're going to start here by activating the Waka Flocka, use its effect in order to get ourselves the Big Benkei. Then we'll use the effect of the Big Benkei in order to get us the booster. And now we can activate the booster on the Waka Flocka so that we can special summon out the booster. And then we can go into our Entertainment. We'll use the effect of the Entertainment so that we can special summon out the Waka, go into our Crimson Dragon, and then we can use the effect of Waka, giving us the scale, as we'll activate the Emblem of Oath, and then from here we'll be able to activate the Primera. And keep in mind that we did it in this order because the Emblem of Oath stops you from special summoning anything from the extra deck if it isn't a Centur-Ion monster. So we'll then use the effect of Primera, and then we're going to use the effect of Primera on the field, as we'll get ourselves the Trudea. We'll then normal summon the Trudea, use its effect in order to place in the spell and trap zone along with the Emmet, use the Emmet. This will give us the level 12 access for the Centur-Ion level 12, and this time we don't need the field spell for the quick synchro since we have the Crimson Dragon on board off of the super heavy samurai stuff, and then we'll be able to get ourselves a draw, which again, this can just be anything, and then we're going to get ourselves the effect of the level 12 Centur-Ion in the end phase for the Primera, giving us access into even more plays during our opponent's turn, in which in this scenario you're only really going to get a search off of the Primera, which is perfectly fine because you already have the Crimson Dragon to Hot Red King Calamity as your opponent on their turn, but just the follow-up that you're able to get, as you then have access to using Primera not only on their turn, but on your turn. Now for the next combo, before I get onto the test hand, we have Stand-Up Centur-Ion, Faith of the Centur-Ion, Trudea, and we're going to continue this one by activating the Stand-Up Centur-Ion, and then we're going to use its effect pitching the Trudea, as we're then going to use the effect of the Primera, and then use the effect of Primera in order to special summon it, use its effect on summon in order to get ourselves our next new trap. Normally you would get the counter trap here, but I'm just getting the Phalanx because I want to show it off and read it for the video. But target one face-up monster card on the field, banish it, and if you do, special summon it to its owner's field during the standby phase of the next turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Centur-Ion Synchro monster from your graveyard, or in your graveyard as a cost, special summon it, but it loses 1500 attack. You can only activate one Phalanx per turn, and only once that turn. And it says actually only use one Centur-Ion Phalanx effect per turn. Going to activate our Faith of the Centur-Ion in order to get our Trudea onto the spell and trap zone, then use its effect, which will allow us to special summon it, as we'll use its effect in order to put it in the spell and trap zone, getting ourselves the Emmet. And now this is going to give us the same setup that we've been going with, except this time we'll have the access to a trap card that you can go with it. So if you get the counter trap, you have the Omni Negate. You also have the ability to get back a Centur-Ion monster into your spell and trap zone with the Faith of the Centur-Ion, as we did special summon a Synchro Centur-Ion monster. That said, in this particular combo, it really doesn't matter. You don't have to do it just because the Emmet can special summon itself back from the graveyard regardless during your opponent's turn, and you're going to get the Primera back through the Synchro monster. So we're just going to set the Phalanx. We're going to get back the Emmet for the Faith, but then we're going to get the extra draw, go to the end phase. We'll then be able to get the effect of the Synchro, as we'll get ourselves the Emmet on the Spell and Trap Zone, and then we can go on to our opponent's turn, where we will just hit them with the Hot Red King Calamity, and most likely you would have the counter trap. Now for the final hand, and I'm choosing to show the Horus stuff kind of late, and it's because it takes an entire hand to really play with it and to show its full potential. So I chose this hand to kind of sum up the deck as a whole through 5 cards, and I hope it works. So we're now going to start here by activating or normal summoning the Trudea, using its effect, as we're then going to be able to put it in the Spell and Trap Zone, the Primera in the Spell and Trap Zone as well, as we'll then be able to special summon it. We'll use its effect in order to get the stand-up, and then we'll activate the stand-up, and then use its effect pitching the Ash Blossom, as we're then going to be able to get the Emmet. We can then use the effect of Emmet. We'll have the level 12 access now, as we're going to use the Field Spell in order to quick synchro as we go into the Centur-Ion. This will give us an extra draw, which will end up being the discard or the send for the Horus. Now we'll use the Waka Flocka, as we're going to use its effect in order to get the Big Benkei, and then we're going to use the effect of the Big Benkei in order to get the booster, and then we can activate the booster on the Waka Flocka, as we'll use the effect of the booster special summoning itself, and then we'll go into our Entertainment. We can use the effect of the Entertainment. Remember not to special summon it in the extra monster zone, because you need the extra monster zone open for the Waka Flocka, but we're then going to be able to use the Horus stuff. Now I'm doing it in this order because I want to show different options that you can go with this, but it depends on what you want to do, so just take it with a grain of salt on the route that I choose to go from here. But we're going to use the Emblem of Oath, and you actually do want to do this now, as you're going to end up sealing all of your Spell and Trap Zones pretty shortly. So we're then going to activate the King Sarcophagus. We'll use its effect as we'll pitch the Trudea. We'll then send off our Happy, and this will give us the ability to special summon out the Happy. We'll get the rank 8 access as we go into Photon Lord. You can also go into number 38, and then we'll special summon back out the Imseti, I don't know how to say it, but then we're going to go into the Crimson Dragon. We'll then use the effect of the Waka Flocka, which will give us the skill, and this is what I meant by you'll have all your zones locked. The Primera not being in the Spell and Trap Zone doesn't really matter, since you have the Crimson Dragon already on board, as we can then go onto our opponent's turn and end our board on this. So with all of the combos out of the way, we can finally get onto the deck profile, and it's pretty cookie cutter in my opinion, just a bunch of 3-ofs in terms of the Centur-Ion stuff. We only have one Emmet, which can technically be 2 if you don't want to play 1, I totally understand that. Then the 1 counter trap and the 1 Faith, I think is pretty self-explanatory also. The only reason that I don't play the Phalanx is because I am on the 2 Sarcophagus and the Happy. If you want to play 1 Sarcophagus, you can, and then put the Phalanx in. Outside of that, I really would like to talk about the options, since you really got to see the gist of what this deck does. The Horus stuff is here because you have a level 8 body, and with Primera that's a level 4, it just gets you into the level 12s, and you see how that's kind of the main thing this deck wants to do. You have your super heavy Samurai stuff, which not only gives you access to Infernal Flame Banshee, you have to remember that it is a Synchro 8 play, which can also be a Draco Berserker of the Tenyi if you want to combo that with your field spell during your opponent's turn. I also would like to point out that Primera is a spellcaster, so you can play the Artemis along with the Zoroa, and I think that's pretty cool. Then we also have the Axel and the Baron if you do choose to play the bike. Then there's also the Dogmatica stuff, but I really wasn't feeling it just because I felt like the super heavy Samurai stuff gave this deck so much more consistency, and then putting the Horus stuff there, which is just big bodies that get you into more advantage. They can put cards in the graveyard to combo like with your Faith and stuff. I just thought that the Horus stuff was a cool addition to the deck. Then also Prosperity, if you don't want to spend the money on the Horus cards, you can just play Pot of Prosperity and then go with Called By and Crossout, because as you saw, there are some choke points that the deck currently has, and I feel like these cards can definitely see main deck play as this deck continues to evolve. But then we also have the Phalanx. We have the There Can Be Only One, which is an interesting card for this deck because everything has really a different typing. Spellcaster, Pyro, this is a machine, this is Spellcaster, which you're not really going to summon all that often, and if you do, you can always rank it away or synchro away. at different points where you would have the Primera on board, so I just think that's kind of cool. And finally, I do want to talk about Ghost Ogre, just because I think that Ghost Ogre could be more play with the Centur-Ion stuff being around, seeing as you can hit the Waka. You can also hit these as continuous traps when they activate, which is kind of nice. That said, you aren't really able to hit the field spell unless you don't have a Centur-Ion monster on board. That means that you can only hit it if they're using its effect from hand and they don't have anything else. See that we have the drawing second cards, which can really be anything that you want to play. I just went with the 12 that I really tried to put in every video. That said, I do think that the droplets and the imperms are really good heading into a format with Centur-Ion because of Hot Red King Calamities and because you're able to stop the Centur-Ion synchro with the imperm, which will stop them from potentially getting combo, though it's not always going to work. And as for the extra deck, I would like to talk about some of the choices that I made to play. I chose only 2 level 8 or 2 rank 8s because I'm only playing 2 names. I don't want to go beyond that so that I can have space for the super heavy samurai stuff, the going second cards, along with being able to play the regular Centur-Ion count. As you saw, I already had to take an Emmet out. But then we have the Abyss Dweller and the number 41, just 2 other rank 4s that you can go into. The Zeus and the Typhon, basically cards that go into anything that can play Exceeds. The SP Little Knight, as you saw, 1-card combo with Waka Flocka. It's a Link 2, and it's the best Link 2 in the game right now. We then have Omega, Entertainment, we have Lulu Wallace, which happens to be a very funny card because not only is it a level 12 synchro, but during the end phase of this card is in the graveyard, because it was sent there this turn, you can special summon 1 light spellcaster monster from your hand or deck, whose attack equals its own defense. And funny enough, that happens to be Centur-Ion Primera. It has 1600 attack, 1600 defense. But the last thing I would like to cover is Bonfire, and Bonfire is a card that's coming out, I believe, in January here in the TCG, and this will be a card that can directly search your Trudea, and just the added consistency of that with the super heavy samurai stuff, you have to see that this deck has a pretty bright future, and it's pretty scary in my opinion considering how often it tries to go for Hot Red King Calamities. That said, a ban would really change the trajectory of this deck if we do see this get hit. And I know that these cards are going to be crazy expensive, so just protect yourself a little bit on that. But anyways, I'm going to get with the card by card, and we have the 3 Trudea, we have the 3 Primera, the 3 Wakas, the 3 Emcetis, the 2 King Sarcophagus, the 1 Terraforming, the 1 Emmet. We then have the 3 Emblem of Oath, we then have the 3 Field Spell, the 2 Big Benkei, the 2 Boosters, we then have the 1 Happy, the 1 Faith, the 1 Counter Trap, we then have the 3 Imperm, the 3 Ash Blossom, the 3 Forbidden Droplet, 1 Thrust and 2 Talents, we then have Typhon, Zeus, Hope, Ton Lord, Infernal Flame Banshee, Abyss Dweller, number 41. Now, all we really need is a wind attribute rank 4 that's a staple in everything that isn't Tornado Dragon, so that we can make the elemental rank 4 a thing. But we'll then have the SP, we'll have the Omega, Entertainment, Lulu Wallace, Hot Red King Calamities, and Dragon, along with the 2 Centur-Ion level 12s to round out the deck profile. For everyone who's made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching and for the 600 plus subs. I truly appreciate your support, and now that we've monetized the channel, giving us access to supers and memberships means that more awesome stuff is on the horizon. To get the channel membership, just click on the description below, and there will be a link that takes you there. You'll also notice a free Discord link that I've made for us too. If you want to support me as a content creator, even if you can't donate supers or get a membership for the channel, clicking on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons help a lot too. For those wondering, I do plan on making updates to the channel as the support on the channel grows. Anyways, I hope to see you on the next one. It's Bones, signing out.